Thank you very much and welcome everybody to Development Planning Sustainability Committee, Tuesday, June 30th. I'm Councilman Tony Brancatelli, Chairman of the Development Planning and Sustainability Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Brancatelli.
Here.
Cleveland.
Here.
Griffin. Hairston.
Here.
Usher Jones.
Here.
Life.
Present.
McCormick.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The DPS Committee hearing is being held during the COVID-19 emergency declaration in accordance with Ohio's open meeting laws as amended by sub HB 197. This meeting is being held using the Zoom platform and is being live streamed on YouTube and on Cleveland's Channel 20. It also can be seen on Cleveland City Council website from Council's Facebook page. In accordance with Ohio open meeting regulations as amended by SB 197, notice of this committee hearing was publicly posted. This committee hearing will be conducted as all committee hearings in accordance with Council rules of Robert's Rules of Order. The chair will facilitate the meeting and call on persons to speak. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand option on Zoom and please limit your comment to the matters before today's committee. As usual practice, any actions to be voted on during this committee will be done by voice vote called and recorded by the committee clerk. With that, we have one piece of legislation on our committee. And this is Emergency Ordinance 292-2020, designating the Pilsener Brewing Company Bottle Works as a Cleveland landmark by Councilmember McCormick. This is a public portion of our meeting. So with that, I would like to call on Don, are you facilitating the presentation?
I will. I'll just introduce it.
Okay, great.
I'm really just here to introduce Tony Bango. The Pilsner Bottling Works, it was nominated by the commission late in 2019 at the request of Detroit Shoreway. It's one of those hidden in plain sight gems in Cleveland neighborhoods. It's a part of Cleveland's ethnic history. It's about beer, so it's got everything. And Tony Bango is here to walk you through the history of the building as well as the future.
All right.
Great, welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much, Don, for the introduction. Let me just share my screen here. Right.
And please introduce yourself and who you're representing.
Yeah, so my name is Tony Bango, and I am a project manager at Detroit Shoreway. I've been directly involved with the Pilsner Brewing Company's Bottling Works building. I'm really excited to work on this project because it's an important part of our history, but also I'm a big fan of brewing in Cleveland. So let me just go ahead and start. So thank you all for considering the nomination of the Pilsner Brewing Company Bottling Works building as a local landmark for the city of Cleveland. So for those of you who don't know, the site is located at 6605 Clark Avenue, just off of West 65th Street at the heart of the Stockyards neighborhood. Now, West 65th Street used to be a major industrial hub on the near west side of Cleveland. And the Bottling Works building is one of the few remaining industrial buildings on West 65th Street. A couple have been demolished. There's a few that remain standing that are really heavily distressed. The Bottling Works building is in decent condition, but it is becoming more distressed as time goes on. This is a picture of the Bottling Works building from Clark Avenue. You can see it maintains a lot of its historic details, but historic windows have been removed. There's a steel overhang off of its Clark Avenue entrance that's missing, and some of the masonry is a bit distressed. You can go to the next slide. So this is a Sanborn map from 1898. You can see the southwest corner of Clark and West 65th where the Bottling Works building stand. At this time was only a couple of small buildings. By the 1930s to 1940s, the campus had dramatically expanded to encompass 4 very large buildings supported by a handful of smaller buildings. Now, Most people don't recognize the name Pilsner Brewing Company, but they do recognize POC, or Pilsner of Cleveland, which was the company's flagship brand. This company really is a testament to the Bohemian community that used to reside within the Stockyard neighborhood. It was founded in 1892 by Wenzel Medlin. Mr. Medlin learned how to brew in the Czech city of Pilsen, where Pilsners get their name. And he brought that to Cleveland at a time when Pilsners were really not common at all. Medlin himself was not a good businessman, and he went into bankruptcy in 1894. And the company's leadership was assumed by a gentleman named Vaclav Humel. And under his leadership, this site really saw dramatic expansion, going from 6,000 barrels in 1894 to 26,000 barrels in 1898. By 1901, there was a massive campus expansion, which saw a 5-story brew house, boiler house, stables, and a pitch house. And in 1915, we saw the completion of the Bottling Works building, which also kept the company's corporate offices. So when this building was completed, it was completed for $300,000 at the time, and was designed by an architect out of Detroit named Gustav Mueller. It was capable of building bottling 5,000 bottles per hour. But that really wasn't this building's only function. It housed their corporate offices and was used as a showcase for the business. They would invite participants from the local neighborhood and from the region in to see their operations, and they would serve them dinner and entertain them with cabaret dancers, and the executives of the company would actually show moving pictures of their drives through the countryside. And it was said about what they did here that no doubt many prohibitionists were converted. However, we all know that wasn't the case. Prohibition came in 1920. They had to switch operations to produce near beer. They also made other products like orange soda and ginger ale, and they delivered ice and cold to local homes. And when Prohibition ended in 1933, they were the first brewery in Cleveland to resume production, making 175,000 barrels annually, a huge jump from the turn of the century. In 1935, the company was purchased by City Ice and Fuel, and that really was the end of the Bohemian involvement in the company. And the company continued to grow in Cleveland until about 1951, making 500,000 barrels a year. At this time, a lot of smaller local breweries like Pilsner Brewing Company were struggling to keep up with national brands. And this company was eventually purchased by Duquesne in 1963, and then it was moved to Pittsburgh. In 1972, it was purchased by Schmidt and moved back to Cleveland, although to a different site on Quincy Avenue. And it ceased its operations when Schmidt closed down in 1986. Now, the campus has remained largely vacant since the 60s, being used for storage and warehousing and automotive-related uses. And fires since the 60s have claimed every building except the Bottling Works building. So this is a picture of the southwest corner of West 65th Street and Clark Avenue in 1914. You can see the campus, the Bottling Works building to the right, and the brew house to the left. Today, this is what that intersection looks like. Almost all the historic buildings are, well, all but the Bottling Works building are gone. You can see the Bottling Works building itself looks quite a bit different than it did in 1914. What I'm going to do now is kind of go over a little bit of the existing conditions of the building. You can see here in this aerial view, the bottling building is on the north of the parcel, but most of the southern portion of the parcel is vacant land storing automobiles and a Quonset hut. To the left here is the Bottling Works building as it was intended, and to the right is what it looks like today. You can see there's an overhang missing, many of the windows are gone, and the loading dock has changed a little bit. Here on the left, you see the loading dock. There's a distressed crumbling concrete on the flooring, and the metal overhang is rusted and falling apart. To the right is the rear of the Bottling Works building. You can see almost all of the historic windows have been removed and boxed in with much smaller windows. To the left here is actually taken from the second floor of the building. There's a light well that is on the top of the building that in originally brought light into the first floor from the roof. And that's been boxed in and filled in with storage units. On the right here, this is a picture taken from the cold storage looking into the Rathskeller, which was used as a showcase room. And they punched a hole through the cardboard and brick into the Rathskeller, and the whole space now is being used as automotive repair. Here on the left in this photo, you can see the historic cobblestone driveway, which is, it's still there, but it's distressed. The center is a beer hoist that no longer functions and has been left in place. And on the right, like so many older distressed historic buildings, this is one of many areas where there's been water penetration through the roof, starting to damage woodwork and structural conditions within the building. And then on this side, what I want to do is I just wanted to show some of the more grand nature that still exists within the building. On the upper left, you can see tile work that features the brand POC. Below that, you can see some of the ornate woodwork. The center is a column from the Rathskeller. You can see the level of detail. So when they were bringing people in from the community and showcasing their business, they really wanted to give the impression that the place was grand. And to the right here, this is an ornamental staircase just off of Clark Avenue. So when you came in off of Clark Avenue, you'd see the staircase and you would either climb it to their corporate offices or you would descend it into the Rathskeller. So finally, just real quick, our plans for the property. We would like to turn this we would like to adapt this building into housing. We have an option agreement to purchase about 1.2 acres that contains the bottling works building. Our plan is to use historic tax credits and low-income housing tax credits to convert this into 39 units of affordable housing. You can see here in this elevation, our plans are to restore this building to its former glory, restoring all 238 historic windows, restoring the loading dock, restoring the metal overhang on Clark Avenue, restoring its grandeur on the street. This is a site plan. You can't really see what I'm talking about here, but the cobblestone driveway that I had pointed out earlier, we would like to maintain and restore so that the site itself actually maintains its original character. And then this is the basement floor plan. We will be maintaining the historic elevator and stairwells within the building, including the ornamental stair at the front, and maintaining the Rathskeller as a community room. You know, a lot of times when we consider these types of projects, we'd like to place some community space within the building so that the public may access it. But in this case, this is actually restoring this room for its original purpose, which was to be accessible to the community. The second floor here, you can see at the center, there's a blue square that says open to the above. This will actually be part of the restored light well, allowing light to go from the roof all the way down to the first floor. We'll also be restoring a historic vault within this building. It was used originally to store cash and valuables, but we'll be using it to showcase any items of historical significance we find as we do the development work. And then finally, this is the second floor. You can see at the center, the balcony, which overlooks the light well looking down onto the first floor. And then these two orange units located towards the front of the building off Clark Avenue. So those are currently the corporate offices, and they feature a lot of exposed wood and burlap coverings on the walls. We actually intend to maintain these units with those current materials, repairing where we need to, so that these apartments actually wind up looking like the corporate offices originally did. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have. And again, I thank you all for considering the nomination of this building.
Thank you, Tony, and certainly thank you for the diligence on the recorded history on this. From some of us on the east side who were Stroh's drinkers, we had a different name for POC, but I won't say what that was. This is the public portion comment of the presentation. Madam Clerk, did you receive any public comment on this designation?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With that, I will end the public comment portion and open it up to my colleagues. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support this legislation. I want to thank the team at Detroit Shoreway as well as Metro West for all the hard work on this project. This is a really exciting affordable housing project in our neighborhood. And as was just gone through in that detailed presentation, preserving and celebrating the historic building and all of the history here. So really exciting project. Detroit Shoreway has a long successful track record of developing affordable housing in the community. So I am confident that as we move forward, that this plan will be successful, and we will add to our inventory of desperately needed affordable housing in the city of Cleveland. And this is again another great example, a way that we can see two birds in one sighting by restoring an important historic building in the city of Cleveland and providing high quality, safe, clean, affordable housing for folks. So a really exciting project. I fully support it. And again, thanks to all the hard work. This is one of those things where we encapsulate it in a 30-minute presentation, but Mr. Chairman, as you know, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of headache go into a project like this, all in love, right, to get it done. But we're summarizing it in just a few short minutes, and it's just it's a really exciting project. So that's all I've got.
Great, thank you. Do I have any other comments from my colleagues for 292-2020? All right. No further comments. Thank you, Tony, for the presentation. Thank you, Don. This is a great project. Looking forward to seeing the next phase of this development. No further questions. 292-2020 stands approved as read. Thank you very much. With that, I don't think we have any additional. Councilor Kevin Roberts, did you have any comment? I just saw you raise your hand. You're just good to go. Okay. And Anthony, Tony Bengo, I want to thank you for your work on this. I also will be remiss not to recognize and thank Jeff Ramsey for all his years of service at Detroit Shoreway. And just want to make sure we acknowledge all the great work that he had done in the past, and certainly acknowledge Adam as he steps up in his interim role and leading the organization. With that, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Councilman.